and welcome to Unserious Eats, where flavor is king and unnecessary authenticity doesn't matter. Now, today I want to show you a pasteurization of goulash. I know goulash is more associated with Hungary than with Austria, but first of all the Hungarians call it pörkölt and not even goulash, so there's that. And what Hungary does not have, as it seems, which Austria does, is about 1 million variations of goulash. In Austria, goulash has transcended the basic beef version and has branched out into a whole host of different kinds of goulash. But in essence, goulash is an onions, meat and paprika powder based dish, which is braised for as long as you can stand, and then, depending on which type of goulash you use, thickened with a slurry of flour or flour and sour cream. That's the basic components. Now, as comfort food goes, goulash is, I think, culturally the most relevant comfort food for Austrians. Not like even more than schnitzel, probably. I know schnitzel is much more famous, but a great goulash just provides a sense of warmth that schnitzel can't. Like I said, nowadays goulash in Austria, as well as in Hungary, is mainly a beef dish, but historically speaking, there have been loads more variations. And to find out how many, I did a bit of research. Now, let me show you the amount of books I had to read. Yeah, that's quite a bit of reading material. However, the most important one is this one. The Great Sacher Cookbook, which is basically the Bible of Austrian cuisine. And in there are no less than 46 different variations of goulash. But basically there's 3 kinds of goulash in Austria. There's soft goulash, there is thickened goulash, and there is a so-called Rahm goulash. Soft goulash means juice goulash in literal translation, which is just a goulash that isn't thickened at all, and where the sauce is basically just thickened by the reduction of water. The second variation, the thickened goulash, is usually thickened with a slurry of flour, historically, nowadays more commonly starch, which gives a more homogenized sauce and which leads the fat, which will normally rise to the top in a soft goulash, to be emulsified into the sauce. And the last and most luxurious version is the Rahm goulash, which means cream goulash, where you take sour cream and starch or flour, whisk it together, and then whisk it into the goulash, giving a quite decadent and creamy consistency. However, these 3 categories aren't the essence of goulash. The only thing all of these 46 recipes I found have in common are onions and paprika powder. And as long as you have that, you can call it an authentic goulash, and nobody can tell you it's not. However, there is one technique that is quite common in goulash making, at least in Austria, which is called paprizieren, or paprikating in English. It is basically where you fry off the onions, and after you're done, you pour over an obscene amount of paprika powder and quickly roast, fry, bloom it in the hot onion mixture before you deglaze with wine or vinegar or stock. What this does is it gives the goulash a quite rusty brown color and it intensifies the paprika flavor. Now for the recipe I want to teach you, basically I'm not going to teach you how to make beef goulash because there's loads of beef goulash recipes on the internet, loads of great ones, and if you speak German, Kein Stress Kochen has a great one. I guess J. has one as well, but I guess that's more Hungarian goulash. Anyways, what I'm going to teach you is the goulash base, the sauce without the meat. I really like this technique for meal prep because I hate meal prepping and I don't want to prep whole dishes, but if I have the sauce ready, I can use any quick cooking cuts of meat or any leftovers and make them into goulash. Without any further ado, let me show you how to make it.
Alright then, let's get cooking. It's really not too hard now. We're gonna first melt some lard or duck fat, as in this case, or you can also use oil, in a high-sided pot and wait for it to shimmer like this. Now once it's shimmering, I'm going to add 350 grams of sliced or roughly diced brown onions, together with a big pinch of salt. like a whole teaspoon. The salt has two jobs here. First of all, it's going to intensify flavor, and second of all, it's going to decrease the time the onions need to brown. And we really do need to brown these onions well. Like, I'm stirring here over medium-high heat for about 5 to 10, more like 10 minutes, until they take a really rusty color. During that time, you will notice that there are brown bits stuck to the bottom of the pot, which is the fond, which contributes greatly to the characteristic flavor of goulash. Now, after 5 to 10 minutes of frying, this is what the onions should look like. I'm quite happy with that, but you can take them further if you like a sweeter goulash. Anyways, I'm going to add 15 grams of tomato paste now, just for more umami and color. And I'm going to follow that up with 2 minced cloves of garlic for general goodness, because we didn't like garlic. Now I'm going to stir it in very, very quickly to make sure it doesn't burn. And I'm going to fry this off over medium-high heat again until it's fragrant. Then I'm going to switch off my stove and add the rest of the ingredients, which is a teaspoon of dried marjoram and a teaspoon of dried caraway. Now, the main spice here is 15 grams, really do measure it, of sweet paprika powder. And with the stove turned off, I'm going to bloom these spices in the onion mixture until I can smell them quite easily. Then, to lift off all the nice brown bits at the bottom of the pan, I'm going to deglaze with red wine, turn back on the heat to medium high, and then cook this while stirring until all of the red wine is gone. Once it looks like this, I'm going to add 500 grams of beef stock. You can use a bouillon cube here, no problem. Just make sure it dissolves properly, unlike I did. Then we're going to bring it back to our simmer and add the Worcestershire sauce. And now we're going to simmer this for about 30 minutes until it darkens in color and has thickened up a little. As you can see by looking at it, it's quite dark already. And if we drag our finger over the spatula, we can see it leaves a trail, meaning the sauce is properly thickened. Now we're going to taste salt and adjust. And now we can store it in the fridge for 3 to 4 days or in the freezer for 3 to 4 months. Congratulations, your goulash-based sauce is actually done.
Now that's the base sauce finished, and which means we are ready to go and to store it in the fridge or use it right away. And this should be enough for 4 servings, which means 2 meals for me, or like probably 4 meals for normal people. Now the sauce is finished. Let me show you how to use the sauce.
Now to finish this, I'm going to use my carbon steel pan, and once again heat some lard in it. Now it's shimmering, it means it's hot and I can add my meat. Now I went here for pork loin in cubes, which isn't my usual choice of cut for a goulash, but the butchers didn't have anything else, so I went for this. Now you want to make sure it's in a single layer in the pan, and you press down a bit with a spatula to ensure good contact. This means that we get most browning development. And the browning from the base sauce and the meat here is basically the flavor base of this whole dish. The browning of the meat shouldn't take too long, basically 4 to 5 minutes per side. After 5 minutes, it looks somewhat like this, so flip it over. And basically you don't want to fry all sides, just 2, because especially with pork loin in this case, it does dry out very, very quickly. To prevent this, I'm going to add a couple of ladles of my base sauce, which is going to cool down the pan and lift any brown bits off the bottom of the pan. Now we're going to give this a good mix and stir the meat into the sauce and bring it back to a simmer. And we're going to simmer until the meat is cooked through, about 5 to 10 minutes I would say. Now, since I want to make a ham goulash, meaning sour cream goulash, I'm going to whisk together about a tablespoon of flour with 50 grams of sour cream and add that mixture to the pan with the stove turned off. Then I'm going to be very impatient and not wait for the pan to cool down and stir it in immediately, which means that the sour cream has split. Don't worry, it doesn't make a difference for taste, just for appearance. Now we're gonna bring it back to a simmer to make sure that the flour thickens the sauce, and as you can see here, it leaves a streak on the bottom of the pan when we move the spatula through it, which means it's done. Now for plating, we're gonna get our nicest IKEA plates we have at home, add a couple of spoonfuls of goulash, then garnish that with some parsley, and then film it from the sides, ragusa style with the red filter to make it all influence through. And then we can finally have a taste of this lovely looking goulash.
So, best time of any video, right? The taste test. This is what it looks like. I went for the goulash, which means cream goulash, because I could only get pork loin, which is a little lean for my taste for goulash, so I thought I'd add some fat with basically cream. Anyways, let's give it a go. Tastes like goulash. I feel like you really get a lot more result than you put in effort, you know? It's really, it tastes like a proper goulash, maybe not homemade for like a festive day, but like it's a fair bit better than any of the prepackaged stuff or even some restaurants get. Like the gravy tastes like it has been simmering for hours. And even though when fairly traditional today with the pork, I can see this going really well with some shrimp. For some reason I have this urge to make a shrimp goulash someday. Maybe I'll post it when I do. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you give it a shot. Yeah, see you in the outro.
As you can see, it's a really simple process, and this offers a great opportunity to use up any leftovers or have a quick weeknight meal without having to basically cook at all. Like if you're really lazy, you don't even have to sear the meat. You can just plop it in a pot, pour over the sauce and turn the heat to medium and wait till it's done. I hope you enjoyed that, and even though it makes me really cringe to ask, please like and subscribe so the algorithm thinks that I'm producing anything of value here.